Thanks everyone for another conversation with travelers, destination experts, and literally me. I feel like opening up that old fashioned Rolodex and sharing some of my favorite people and resources that have helped me in my travels. So today I'm super excited to have Michelle join me. Michelle is someone that has gone back quite a ways for me. When I first did my first international trip, I decided Ireland was where I wanted to go. My great grandmother was from Ireland. I had this affinity to go and explore there. And so I looked for someone with a resource, and IrelandYes.com, Michelle's website, is where I found that resource. She's got a wonderful book, very detailed. So she put it all together kind of for me. So welcome, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, April.
So I wanted to talk about that whole idea of wanderlust and travel. I feel like for some of us, we're kind of born with that bug of wanting to explore. Some of it was nurtured through our parents, and some people literally, work and work and work, and then kind of discover the joy of travel later in life. So how do you feel travel's kind of played into your life?
Well, when I was a kid, my parents were just working all the time, both of them. So we never really traveled or took any vacations. And later in life, when I was in my 20s, I got married, and my husband worked for an airline. Well, you have to take advantage of the perks of working for an airline. So we did. Over the past 50 years or so, we just traveled all over the place, but Ireland was my favorite.
Oh, yeah. So was Ireland a choice originally just because it was part of the route he was going, or was it somewhere you chose based on a personal interest in it?
No, actually, it took a little time to get there. It was not on the beaten path, so to speak. Um, Actually, we had a 2 week vacation, and my husband's ancestry was Norwegian, so he
Oh,
wanted to go visit his second cousins in Norway. And I said, okay, you can have a week there, but I want my week. And I'm French, Irish, Italian, and American Indian. So the Irish won out with that one. I decided we're going to Ireland. And so the second week was in Ireland. And then I've been back to Ireland 59 times.
oh, I know. I know you've been back many, many times and just fell in love with it, I think, from that first trip. Was that kind of the trip that started it all, or?
Oh, yeah, that started it all. The snowball going down the hill.
And those return trips, did you go sometimes on your own? Did you go with your husband? Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. Always went with my husband, but we've also gone with other people, with my parents, then with my mother, my sister, with friends. We took a group one time, which I will never do again.
Yeah, that's a whole nother dynamic is taking other people and managing what their needs and wants are. But when did the idea spawn for the book?
My husband worked for an airline, as I said, and he worked in a large office in reservations. And everybody was always coming up to his desk saying, I hear you've been to Ireland a few times. Can you tell us where to stay or what to do? So he got tired of scribbling notes for them. He said, can you type me up a few sheets of paper and just with some recommendations on them? So that's what I did. And it was, I don't know, 5 sheets, something like that.
Yeah.
That I just expanded it. And from just having a listing, I described things and told people where to go and things to do that were interesting and also things that are not so interesting.
Yeah, I like the candidness that your little reviews gave. You also had sketches, and it was in a time where it was pre, like, right now everyone is doing a lot of self-publishing, like they have stuff to share and they're self-publishing, but this was pre self-publishing, pre like Amazon KDP and these Kindle books. So was that a
Yes,
challenge? Because you actually put together then a book that people could buy.
it was a challenge. When I was in high school, I was an editor of the school paper, so I knew all about stuff like that. but it was basically, yeah, pre-internet, copy and paste, type something up, cut things out, position them where you want them on the page, and it was very primitive.
And time consuming too. I mean, your book was fairly good size and very detailed on all of these destinations in Ireland.
Right. Well, when computers came into play, it was much easier um, to do the copy and paste thing, and to get the sketches in, and the maps, and whatever else I wanted to put in there. Made made life very, very easy.
Yeah, it did. And I know you and I kind of share this joy of sharing in local inns, bed and breakfast. And I found when I went to Ireland, I mean, the bed and breakfast, that is a world of difference, I imagine, than staying in a hotel as such or something. Maybe speak to a little bit about that.
Right. Well, you're staying in someone's home. Usually at a B&B, the people that run it have their own section of the B&B, so you're not like eating dinner with them or anything.
Yeah.
And you have your own private room and bathroom. But it's just much more personal. Uh, the people that run the B&Bs really know their little corner of the world. They can tell you to go to places that you've never heard of, and probably other tourists, even people that live in Ireland haven't heard of, because they really know their area well. So it's just a whole nother experience. Hotels are much more impersonal. I mean, you can get good advice there if you push for it, but just a whole different experience. One is personal and one is more impersonal.
Yeah, I really felt that. I was just in Ireland last year with a bigger bus group, and we, by logistics, we did have to stay in larger hotels and cities, and you're more limited to be in more busy places, and the staff is busy. There's some short-handedness with that we're seeing across the board in lodgings in many cities, but the bed and breakfast, they are so joyful in sharing what they love in their little areas.
Oh, they are, and you meet people and you make almost like instant friends.
Yes, and the breakfast, the food. That's what the first time I went, staying at some of the places you recommended, I mean, the Irish breakfasts were like full on meals for the day. It was amazing.
Oh, I know, they could keep you going until dinner time.
Yeah, there was fresh salmon and they would, it was just quite and they again, just the care they took in the presentation and in serving you. It was literally like in most places getting a personalized, you know, small restaurant experience. I was just amazed.
Yes, actually, I've the best breakfasts I've ever had in Ireland have been at bed and breakfasts,
Yeah, I agree. So
even
talk
better
about your
than
what?
even better than a castle hotel.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, that's good to know
Yeah.
because I've actually never stayed in a castle hotel. That's one thing I haven't gone back to do yet.
Well, there's castles and then there's castles.
Yes, I imagine. I know right before the call we were sharing how a mutual person we both know, I recommended her book to you, and that was part of what she wanted was to stay in the castles. And it's a very, it's a fairyland experience, it sounds like. But again, it's not quite as personal maybe as a bed and breakfast,
Right. No, it's more like a hotel.
right? So talk about your favorite season to go to Ireland, especially after all of these trips. I'm sure you have some favorite times of year to go see Ireland.
I do. Springtime is my favorite. Well, I love gardens, so everything is blooming then. The cherry trees, the rhododendrons, the tulips, the daffodils, the roses are just starting. So springtime in Ireland is gorgeous. Also, the sheep are having their little babies. So they're prancing around on the hills. They are so adorable. And it's just a fresh time of year, I think. Also, the B&B owners and the hoteliers are fresh. They've had time off during the winter, and now they're raring to go for the rest of the year.
Yeah. And what months would you describe kind of spring? Since Ireland sits so far north, their springtime may differ from what we consider springtime here stateside.
Right. I would say April and May.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know because I was there in June, and in June you're starting to get a lot more other travelers too because schools are out here. So it just was a lot busier, and I kind of like that little bit quieter time to explore.
Yeah, and fall is also a good time, but it's different. You know, the leaves are changing and things are kind of winding down. Um, but I like September and October also. So basically, the shoulder season, when it's not quite so busy, but still you can get some nice weather and things look pretty, and also the sightseeing venues are open.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think Ireland makes a good place. I often get a lot of questions from women. The majority of travelers as women, we tend to do the planning, or we get to a point in our life where we're like, well, he doesn't really want to go. I just need to go on my own and see this. And so I know a lot of women that consider places to go as a solo travelist. And I think Ireland makes a great destination for women solo travel.
Oh, it does, and it's a safe country too. I recently Googled the safest countries to travel in the world. Number one was Iceland, number two was New Zealand, and number three was Ireland.
Oh,
So,
good.
you can go there, have a good time as a single woman traveler, and not really have to worry too much about anything. You know, you always use precautions. Any woman does anywhere, but and people look out for you too. I find if you're staying at a B&B and they want to know about you and what are you doing tonight and where are you going, it's not that they're nosy, they're just interested. And so they kind of look out for you too if you're staying at a B&B for more than a night or so.
Oh, I agree. And I think it's that, I mean, one of the bed and breakfasts I stayed at in my first trip too, the woman, it was one, I'd have to look it up and see which one in particular, but her and I just felt, again, this instant kinship, bondship. And she was like, so what are you guys doing today? I'd love to take you into town and to some of my favorite shops. I mean, she was ready to, like, once she cleaned up from breakfast, give us a personal, and that was just amazing. It just felt really special.
Yeah, the Irish are special people, I think.
Yeah, I agree. How about the driving? Because I know for some people, driving on the opposite road can be a concern, but
If I can drive in Ireland, anyone can. I just say get an automatic. That's all.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I tell people too. And now with GPS too, I think, and a paper map as well, because I always kind of say to use both and ask the locals if you're staying somewhere, is this a good route? Is it because certain routes are better got, some of those ring roads, they call them, are better traversed one
Yes.
direction or the next.
Yes. Yeah, have a GPS, of course, but I kind of know my way around by now. And but I love having an atlas too, because it marks all the little off the beaten path sightseeing things that you might want to see, like stone circles or things like that.
Yeah. So what would you recommend as some of your favorite towns to visit in Ireland? Because there's
Oh,
so
goodness.
many. I mean,
That's like choosing a favorite child, isn't it?
right, yeah.
My favorite small town is Kenmare,
Oh,
which is in the southwest in County Kerry, and it's on the Ring of Kerry. It's just an adorable little town. They have a lot of good restaurants, nice places to stay, and just lovely people in that town, I found. Um, some other, Killarney is great. I know a lot of people say it's too touristy, but there's a reason it's touristy because it's a great place to stay. And they have a lot of more infrastructure there than they would in Kenmare. So that's a lovely place to stay. Dingle, of course, everyone loves Dingle, but it's on the end of a peninsula, so it doesn't really make for a place to stay and do day trips from. My favorite city, I would have to say, is Kilkenny.
Oh, okay.
Um, that's more inland, but it has a beautiful castle there, and there's a lot of things to see and do around the area.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Northern Ireland versus the rest of Ireland, would you recommend visiting?
Oh, definitely. Northern Ireland is great too. Um, I love the different accents you get all over Ireland. In Northern Ireland, I was in a taxi in Belfast. I could not understand one word the man was saying to me, so I had to tell him, "Could you please slow down and you're talking?" And he started laughing at me. He says, "Oh, you Yanks, you can't understand our Belfast accent."
That's true. It is true. When I was in Belfast, I noticed that as well. And also, I'd forgotten this past summer when I went to Belfast the difference in the currency and all of that.
Right, yeah, you have to have pounds instead of euros in Northern Ireland. But
Right.
I mean, it's very scenic. It's gorgeous. There's a lot to see and do up there too. Although they have a more abbreviated tourist season, I would say. And during the shoulder season, when I tend to go, a lot of the places that you would go sightseeing might only be open on the weekends.
Oh, right. I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, that's good to point out. Are there times of the year too that they have festivals or things that are worth maybe being there for or avoiding? I know some people have mixed, some people want to be in on something that's unique and different, and other people are like, oh
Right.
no, too many crowds.
Uh, I really enjoyed the Tulip Festival at Glenarm Castle in Northern Ireland. That was just lovely.
That
Um,
sounds beautiful. I love tulips.
and it was not overly crowded. Um, got to tour the castle and look at the beautiful gardens. And they had displays of tulips that they were giving awards to. It was very interesting and beautiful.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds stunning. I just talked
But
to a gentleman that was going to Ireland and he realized after he booked his family, I think it was spring break here in the States, so he's like, oh, I'm going to be in Dublin during St. Patrick's Day. And I'm like, oh, well, enjoy.
he got reservations somewhere, so that was great.
Yeah, I bet because it is probably a really busy time and something to plan
It
ahead
is.
for.
Yeah, exactly. Another place maybe to avoid is the May Bank Holiday in Killarney because they have something called the Rally of the Lakes, and they have all of these motorcyclists there, uh, tons of them. So that gets booked up pretty quickly there.
Right. Yeah, that does sound like something that would get booked up. If you're trying to navigate the narrow roads, again, something to think about all those motorcyclists being out and about.
Exactly.
It reminds me of a story the first time we went. My husband was doing all the driving, and we were out in Ireland. Nobody was out on this road, and all of a sudden, this car comes up behind us out of nowhere, speeds past us, and we both ended up at a gas station convenience store at the same time. And he come and we were in there, or I don't know how it happened. He came in and he goes, "You guys are very bad driver," and we're like. No, how could we be a bad driver? There was nobody out there. Like we kept looking at each other like, how? What? It was the funniest thing.
Uh, you should just say, "Well, we're not from here, and we're doing our best."
Right, I know. That's what I was thinking. Were we going too slow just because we were not familiar with the road, or when you're wanting to look out the window and look for places to safely pull off, because some of the ring roads they don't have a lot of places to say pull off as such.
That's true. And, if you want to get a few photos or something, you've got to be careful.
Yes, exactly. So, what are some of your other favorite dishes, some foodie things for people? Because I think the old-fashioned idea of, in the past, people thought Irish food, British food, it was all kind of bland. And I think that is completely, like I said, some of my most memorable breakfasts and meals have been in Ireland now.
Right. Well, in Ireland, they like the food very fresh. So, they might have gone out and just got the eggs out of the nest that day and are serving you for breakfast. Or they might have just got the salmon in from one of the lakes to serve at dinner. So very fresh food. One thing I like about Ireland is the food is always served to you very hot. In the United States, sometimes it comes out of the restaurant kitchen and it's kind of lukewarm.
Yeah.
Uh, you find that sometimes, but everything is always uh, well presented, and they don't rush you at Irish restaurants either. I find that if you order an appetizer, your entree is not coming out as soon as you take one bite of the appetizer. They wait until you're finished, and then your entree comes. And you really have to ask for your check there because they're not going to rush you. They're not there to put you on an assembly line and get you out the door so they can fill the table with someone else. Um, there's no rush. You're there to enjoy it. Good fresh food, and people just love trying the different dishes that they have over there too.
Oh, I agree. I can completely agree. It's some of the freshest food I can recall having. And just that whole attitude of you're their guest and they aren't rushing you out for the next person. You're there at the table, take your time. And oftentimes it's a good opportunity in the smaller restaurants and pubs. We had some lovely conversations. People were very willing to chat and talk and, where are you from? Have a conversation. Share things they love about Ireland. Where are you going next? Oh, have you seen this? Have you considered going here?
That's true. I had a funny experience at one restaurant. There were some tourists at the next table, and they were planning their whole trip on a napkin.
Oh, oh no.
So they're writing down they were writing down all of the things they were going to see, and the I guess the guy that was in charge was telling the other people what they were going to do, and I was just kind of thinking to myself, oh no, they're not going to get to all of that in one day.
Right? I know.
Yeah, but it was just kind of amusing. I didn't interrupt them and tell them that, but they would find it out for themselves. Uh, but you're right. People do talk to each other and have a conversation, and they like to know where you're from. And of course, when they hear a different accent than the Irish accent, that gets them much more interested in you and what's going on and why you're there and where you're going.
Yes, I agree. So, what are some travel planning tips? Because I think, as, and maybe this is kind of an American thing I find, is we often try to, as a whole, we only have a week or 2 weeks of vacation sometimes. And so we often, even with Ireland or any place, or maybe we think, oh, we can do Ireland and England or Ireland and Scotland. And people are trying to pack too much in. And what are some tips on planning that you can share a little bit? But of course, they should reach out to you as well.
Well, don't try to do everything because you just can't. People look at Ireland and they think, well, it's really small. We can zip around and do the Wild Atlantic Way and do everything in 3 days. But there's just so much to do and see along the way. And they have to remember that every stop takes time. If they stop at a castle, it takes time to tour it and look around and enjoy it. Or if they stop at a garden, um, it takes time to walk through it and see everything that there is to see. But I think the thing to think about when planning a trip and you have a limited time, pick a few highlights, stay a couple days if you can in each area and do some little day trips. And that will give you a lot more options. You'll enjoy what you see there. And granted, you're not going to see everything because nobody ever does on a trip. Even if you had 2 months, you wouldn't see everything. So just enjoy what you see, and you're not going to miss what you don't see.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that is so true. And you can, And go with the idea that you will want to go back and go back again, but maybe have a theme for the trip, or like you said, some highlights, some must sees or something, and try not to think about all the other. I think that's what happens is we go on the internet now and we just get overwhelmed. Somebody says see these things, somebody says see those things, and then you end up with this list that's almost impossible, and it doesn't provide for an enjoyable. You're not going to remember what you saw.
Exactly. It's like an avalanche of information. You're just buried under it. Um, you just have to sort through and decide what you like. And if you're going with other people too, let them have some input. Everybody wants to see something different. So if you're going with your husband or wife, or maybe bringing the kids along, or maybe you're going with friends, and one person wants to see some castles, someone else wants to see stone circles, someone else wants to see fortresses, someone else wants to see some gardens, and the other person wants to see cliffs, and the other person wants to golf.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So talk a little bit about what self-catering hotels or rentals are. Are those kind of like Airbnb over there, or you mentioned that pre-interview a little bit?
No, self catering is renting a house or a cottage,
Oh, wow.
uh, or even a condo in Ireland. Usually during the season, you need to rent it for probably a week at a time, although they do weekends and long weekends too. So it's important to choose a right place to stay, because if you're going to be there for a week, you want to do day trips from there. Um, but I've done self catering in a lot of different places. It's nice to settle down, and then you can find things that are off the beaten path that no one else goes to.
Right, and you have a little bit more of that time to maybe, like you said, just mentioned when you've got a group of maybe it's a intergenerational trip with, like you said, older parents, younger kids, somebody can go off and go golfing that day, and maybe the kids can do something that's, more to their liking. It allows for those different interests a little bit in one area.
It does, and plus you have the whole house. You've got a kitchen, you have a living room, you have a couple TVs, you've got the Wi-Fi. So there's something for everybody, and everybody has their own bedroom. And so it's sort of a different experience. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to do that because I want to be catered to. Uh, but you can go out for breakfast. You can go to a restaurant for dinner. It's not that you have to cook everything yourself in your kitchen, but if you want to, you can. And I think it's great for parents with kids because, kids can be a little fussy at times. They want their nap time, or they want their Lucky Charms for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a different experience.
How does the pricing on that, do you feel, compares to, say, a bed and breakfast or a hotel? Is it pretty comparable? Can families save money that way?
I think they can save money if you consider that there's more than one person
Oh, that's
staying at
true.
a cottage. I mean, if it was just one person, it might not be price effective. But if there's a couple or four or six or a whole family gathering, like a reunion or
Oh,
something, it can be it can cost a lot less.
yeah, I think that's a really good tip because, like you said, when you've got different ages and, especially with young children, they just, they need to have nap time or you need to have more things. And those rentals, I'm sure some of them would be set up to have some toys or things for kids there. So you're not packing everything that you need to have for that.
Oh, exactly. I think every rental I've ever stayed in has things for the kids, and it's also fun because some of them are on farms. I mean, how fun is that for the kids? They can go out and get eggs in the morning for their breakfast, or visit the cows and the pastures. So it's a little bit different, and especially if they're city kids, being able to go out or pet the baby lambs. I mean, how cute would that?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And springtime is, it's like, it's just, Ireland just comes alive. It's like so green. And like you said, the lambs and everything's just popping and alive. It's so amazing.
Well, I love it.
So, how is public transportation in Ireland? Because I not sure that I mean, I often, like I said, this last time I was with a larger group, so they took the bus. I wasn't aware so much of trains or other ways to get around if you didn't rent a car.
Right. Well, don't go everywhere in Ireland, so you're a little limited there. If you want to go to more off the beaten path places, you would have to take buses. Um, but renting a car is absolutely the best because you can go wherever you want, whenever you want, stop where you want. You don't have to stick to a certain route. But public transportation is there for people who are a little shy about driving a car or scared or just don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's true. But I have heard too, and I don't know if it's something they still do. On my first trip, there was a woman at a restaurant, and she was like a car hire. She was a woman that I guess had been hired to drive people. I don't know if that's something that's still available. Should have looked, I guess, before we got on the car call, but
Yes, it is. There's a lot of, they call them chauffeur driven tours of Ireland. Um, yes, that you can hire someone, but it's pretty expensive.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's not cheap at all. But
yeah,
if, again, someone that, money isn't an object and you want your own type of situation and again have more flexibility than being with a larger group, it would be an option.
it would be, and it might not be cost effective for one or two people, but again, if you've got a family group going, it could be cost effective to do that.
Yeah, it might be. So have you been, when was the last time you were back to Ireland?
Well, it was before COVID, so I'm planning another trip now,
Oh yeah,
and
good.
excited about that. It'll be great to go back and see some of my friends there and just enjoy it.
Right, and revisit some of your favorite places, I'm sure.
Hmm. Yeah, very much looking forward to getting back to the 40 shades of green, as they call it.
Yeah, it is. It's so stunning over there. And I have seen some new routes pop up. I think it was just this week, more direct routes into Dublin. I think one from Boston, I want to say, and one from JFK. So for travelers, there are now, which is nice to have a direct flight. It just shortens that time that we have to deal with the whole travel thing.
It does, but I wish they were flying into Shannon more.
Do you prefer Shannon versus Dublin?
Oh, I do prefer Shannon. It's such an easy airport. You don't have to deal with the city. Um, there's basically no traffic at Shannon. It's such an easy airport to get in and out of. It's so lovely to just not deal with all the hassle that you get in the big city Dublin.
Right. And I think Dublin, the last, like I said, I was there last June and it did. There was so many buses, so many people. And if I had not, because the first time we went into Dublin, did not rent the car until we were ready to leave Dublin, which was smart based on your recommendation, thankfully. But if you were someone that was, say, maybe you'd spend enough time in Dublin and so you were going to start your trip and just pick up the car from the airport, I think that would be kind of overwhelming. The traffic right around there, the congestion, it was just kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, that all of the flights are flying into Dublin, so you get kind of a traffic jam there.
Yeah, exactly. So for your, are you planning to update the book or?
Yeah, I'm kind of working on it right now. Things have changed because of COVID. Places have closed, restaurants have closed, some B&Bs have closed. So yeah, there's some shuffling going on. Need to get it all updated and see what's what the next time I get there.
Right. But I think that's something that I've noticed in even, like I said, with New England, even here stateside. I mean, some breakfast owners, the properties have sold, not even to go back as a bed and breakfast, but to go back as a private home. So there is just fewer of, possibly these types of locations. So I know you and I've mentioned before, just our love of supporting. These are the things that make places unique, the small mom and pop restaurants, the bed and breakfast. And in order for it to not look the same every city we go, from Ireland to New York to wherever, we need to support these places.
Yeah, we really do. And the B&Bs have such a small margin of error, if you will. They have to make all their money for the year during the season. The hotels have hundreds of rooms, so uh, their bottom line is not so squeezed as would be at a small mom and pop B&B.
Yeah, I agree. Are there tips for people when they read through review sites? Because I think a lot of times too, you need to kind of you read reviews with a grain of salt as well, because as you said, a large hotel can have a few bad reviews, but a bed and breakfast, just can't. But there's also tips for kind of asking the right questions to know if it's the right location for you or the right type of lodging for you.
Well, reading reviews, you're right, it's so hard.
I know.
It's That's why when I go, I ask people, can I look at your B&B? Or I stay there, or I go and they show me around. And yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And that's why your book, though, has been so invaluable for a lot of people. Because the other thing I find is some of the best small, even as I mentioned, stateside places to stay, they don't have the advertising budget. So you're not necessarily going to see them on some of these larger TripAdvisor, Photos, Frommer's sites, or even, even Rick Steves. I mean, he's got such an audience now that the gem places sometimes just, they're there, but you have to do a little bit more deep diving or ask or, look for listings, maybe even visit locally, ask you, well, should I stay in this area, and find out what some of the small towns are and maybe visit I don't know if they have visitors sites, or here we have like Chamber of Commerce and stuff to connect with.
Right. Well, there are B&B websites. Of course, there's Airbnb. Everyone's familiar with that. But then there's B&B Ireland, which lists a lot of B&Bs. And so there are places where these smaller B&Bs can like advertise and get themselves noticed so that they get the people coming in to stay with them.
Yeah, that's good. So where can people find you, Michelle? And are you still working with individuals if they would like to have you help them plan out a route or suggest places to stay and how to do Ireland, as I say?
Well, actually, I'm kind of semi-retired now, so I stopped doing itineraries. But as I said, I'm updating my book, and I have a Facebook group that people might enjoy. It's called Postcards from Ireland,
Oh,
and
nice.
there's a lot of images of Ireland on there. It gives people a good idea of what they might want to see in Ireland. Um, they look at a pretty picture and say, "Oh, that looks gorgeous. I want to go there."
Right, exactly. That is true. And find out if it fits into areas that they were looking at.
Yes.
I think even though your older editions of your books can be quite a good resource because you have listed things to do in an area, and it can give you tips on choosing an area versus another area, or just how much travel time. I think what happens too is people don't factor in that the roads that they most scenic things are on, or the smaller gem places, you're not going to be driving 60 and 65 miles an hour. So just factoring in extra time to get from place to place is important. Did I lose you? I think Michelle froze. Her Michelle's website is irelandyes.com. And Michelle's book is available on her website. Like I was saying, the older edition is got really great information. So I highly recommend checking out her book on IrelandYes.com, where you can get tips on areas, where to stay, routes, and then her Facebook group, which is Postcards of Ireland, which I love, which I know she interacts in as well. Thank you for joining me and hearing about Michelle Erdvig's book and her website, which is IrelandYes.com. Thanks for joining me, and I'll put some more details into the show notes. Thank you, everyone.